In this clip, I will show you how I produced this portrait using guidelines. Guidelines is a method of measuring to ensure that you draw your portrait in proportions. I will also talk you through the resources that I used to draw the portrait. So let's get on with the tutorial. So before we get started on the drawing method, I'm going to go through the resources that I used in today's clip. You don't need these resources to do your drawing, however you may find them helpful. The first thing is a variety of grades of pencils. I will be using pencils from HB through to 6B. I will also be using a mechanical pencil. I will be using a kneadable eraser. I will also be using a Tombow Zero eraser because this helps to get fine areas and when I do wispy hairs at the end. And also I will finally be using a blending stump. So let's get on with the tutorial. For this sketch, I am using a reference image which I will put a link to in the description below, as well as all the resources that I have used. And I'm going to start by drawing a circular shape to which I will draw a line down the front, and this will take time to practice where this line should go. I am going to actually measure this in a moment because the eyes should be halfway down the face and the eyes are going about a third of the way down the circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure that length there, and then that should be the same length to where the bottom of the face is. So I'm just marking a space there. I've marked a space for the line for the nose, and then I've marked a space to where the lips should go, which is halfway between the space from the nose and the base of the chin. So I'm now going to sketch where the nose is going to go and where the rest of the face will be. I'm going to use a mechanical pencil because I want this to be quite detailed and quite sharp. So again, as I say, it would be better if you have a reference image to work from because then you can add as much detail as possible. And it also means that you won't be working to the mathematical formula rigidly. You can use that as a guide and then you add your details to it. So I'm starting by sketching the nose. Then I'm sketching the lip line area, going to that mark halfway between the nose and the base of the chin. And then I'm starting to just add a few details. I don't want to add too many details at this stage because I just want to make sure that everything is in proportion. I'm now adding the outline of the lip. Obviously this is all in profile, so it's very different to drawing the face from the front. And you may find that you have to rub it out a few times, so just draw your lips and your nose really lightly until you are confident that what you are drawing is a likeness to your reference image. Once you are happy with your lips, then you can start sketching in the chin, and this may take for you to stand back and have a look just to check that everything is in proportion. For the angle of the chin, you should try and line it up to where the ear is, and the ear should be in line with the base of the nose and the eye. So that should be one indicator of where the chin and the angle of the chin should go. And also you should be looking at your reference image, so it's a mixture between the two. So if you have a look here on the grid, on the guidelines, you'll see it fits in right where that cross is. Obviously have a look at your reference image. In actual fact, the reference image that I'm working from doesn't have an ear at all, but I'm just sketching it in to show you where it would be. And my eye, or not my eye, the reference image eye is just underneath the line. So I'm just sketching that in now. Obviously it's in profile, so it's not how you would draw a usual eye. And I'm sketching it in very lightly. I'm not putting in the fine details yet unless I'm 100% happy that I'm drawing everything in the right place. Now I'm going to start sketching in the neck. From the profile area, it should fall just behind where the eye finishes, and obviously the one at the back should be definitely behind the ear. You will need to look at your reference image to determine where this will be. Again, I can't really see the neck from my reference image, but you will need to look at your image to determine where your neck will be, because everyone's neck is wider or narrower than the next person. Before I start adding skin tones, I'm going to sketch very lightly where the hairline will go. So I've sketched down the right hand side the hairline, and then I'm just going to refine the edges of the face before I start going in with the skin tones. So now, using the side of my pencil or overhand grip, I'm going to shade very lightly, just start blocking in the skin tones. I'm using a HB pencil initially because I want to make sure that I'm starting with the lighter tones, and I'm just looking for those darker areas around the eyes and the nose and around the cheek on the right hand side, because that's where the hairline starts. So this is why you need a reference image, because it's really important that you look around the areas of the face for those darker images, and if you have a reference image, that makes this much easier. So now I'm going to go in with the blending stump to smooth out the skin tones. You could of course use your finger or a piece of paper towel, but I find the blending stump is really effective for smoothing out skin tones. Now that I've gone in with the blending stump on most of the face, I'm going to go in with the mini eraser just to see if there's any highlights around the nose and the face area, and this will make sure that these are defined but in a lot of detail. So now I'm going to add definition with the HB pencil to the nose, especially around the nostrils, just to make sure that it stands out. Not going in too dark, just a HB pencil to make sure that there's definition around the nose area. I'm now going to start adding details to the eye area. I will start by adding some details to the iris with a HB pencil, and then I will gradually go in with a 4B and a 6B, adding the darker areas to the iris and to the pupil and also to the eyelashes. The reason that I use a 6B and 4B pencil is because they're darker and it makes those areas stand out even more. For shading this area of the hair, I used a 2B pencil. Please make sure that your pencil is very sharp, because you're going to be going straight up to the edge and you want that edge to be defined. And down the bottom area where you get to the chin, you can then be looser with your strokes. Now I'm going to start shading the lips. It's really important that you start by shading the top lip much darker than the bottom lip, or at least a little bit darker than the bottom lip, because the bottom lip always catches the light, so make sure you take this into account when you're doing your shading. I've started by using the HB pencil, and I will go in a little bit darker when I'm adding that line that goes in between the top lip and the bottom lip. I'm now going to start shading in the rest of the hair. I'm thinking of it as areas of tone, and I'm using the side of my 2B pencil, and I'm not applying too much pressure, because although I want it to look fairly dark, I don't want it to look too stark. So I'm just shading very lightly with the overhand grip to cover as much area, and then I'll add more detail later. So I'm now going in with the 4B pencil and using the tip now, because I want to add more details. So this is now adding in the darker tones with the 4B and using more of the tip, sometimes the side, but mainly the tip, because I'm adding more details. So for the final finishing touches to show wispy hairs, I'm going to use the Tombow mini eraser to take out some final touches with the mini eraser to show some wispy hairs. You could also do this with the kneadable eraser if you make it into a fine point, but I just find that the Tombow mini eraser is really effective. If you enjoyed this clip, then make sure you check out more clips like this in the Portraits playlist. Don't forget to look in the description below for details of products used in today's clip, and if you have any ideas for content or questions, please leave a comment below. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future content. Also, you can now check out my Patreon page for exclusive content, including real-time content and more.